Welcome back to another segment on the Fuel Report. I'm CJ. I'm joined by Airzee, our guest for this segment, and Mr. Mins over here on our right. So to lead off our segment, last Friday, your last game with COD and a little bit of a mid-season retirement play here. Walk us through that decision-making process.
It was tough. It's crazy because just to start off, I started COD casting with, Alex Mins and Justin Reeder. Never even thinking about competing, and then I get to this point where it's like, wow, I have to play. I either play or another season or I'm done now. It was just, it was hard. It was really hard, and I guess getting to that point, we were really not doing well. We were 0-5 after Friday. Won one single map out of 14. So yeah, it was really tough, and I think anyone wants to play on the main team, right? Like that's what you play for. It's what I spent all of last year doing, was to try to get to that point, and it sucked that it didn't work out that way. But yeah, it was tough. I
guess what I'm curious about for the academy team right now, what's going on?
There's a lot going on. We had a couple guys in tryouts who we thought looked really good. Mystic was one of them. He was one of the guys I ended up competing against for the last T1 spot going into MW2. And something happened with him, something personal, stepped away from the game, then leading Rabid Goose to come in and step in as the fourth. And it was kind of chalked at that point. He didn't really want to play, and he was kind of thrown into that role. And then for me, this also went into my retirement. I'm going on vacation mid-season, and I didn't feel like it was my place to kind of chalk the team to play the first 3 weeks and be selfish and screw up team chemistry going into weeks 4 and 5, and give someone like Noted a chance and give Fiend a chance, who are full-time players who are going to be here the entire time. So I wanted to play ACAD just so I could still play. And then possibly be a T1 sub if they needed someone. And yeah, it was just a bunch of mishmash. Like we were playing scrims, and we looked really good in scrims actually. We 5-0'd, swept a hard point scrim against Brock U, ACAD, which was really good last year, and just never really translated into games. And it was like one map out of possible 15 maps played, we won one map. It was hard.
Yeah, I totally understand your point about, leaving mid-season. That's why you couldn't join us live later in the week for this podcast. We'll get a little pre-recording done here now. But, part of just competing in this competitive level is you got to have a level of joy in what you're doing. You know what I mean? You want to put in those extra hours. And the second the joy once it starts to feel like work, what really even is the point at that point?
Yeah, and I think for me, for example, just after the Friday matches, I was hoping to play this past Monday's matches. Rabid Goose kind of chalked it for us. He wanted to get the season done and over with early so we could all just focus on school, do whatever we wanted to do. I had enough passion left in the tank for 2 more series, and I really wish we played them. But after those Friday sets, I know I'm not getting called back up to T1. I know their set 4 is set, and I'm really happy for them. I'm glad that they found that 4, and that was really my hope, was that they found a solid 4 going into the beginning of the year and that they could ride out the rest of the season. But it's tough. Just speaking from personal, like I played ACAD all of last year, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to be able to prove to myself that I could make the jump, and I thought I'd learned enough throughout the whole year that I could make the jump. And bits and pieces happen. Some things don't go my way, and here I am now retiring halfway through the season.
Yeah, at the end of the day, though, it's not always, especially in a team dynamic sort of setting, it's not always the best player at all times either. You know what I mean? Fit, and we've seen fit be so crucial, especially on the T1 stage. Noted, for example, spent some time with Team 1, and he comes down to Academy, and he might be putting up crazy numbers, but you can't ignore the teammate chemistry of that as well. And then ultimately, we see Fiend rise up, and Fiend hasn't, on Monday night there, he actually had a great game, but Fiend isn't particularly known for having the most outrageous gunny out there, but it's just, he's a slower player, and he sort of fits the vibe. And you're right, it was a long time coming for T1 to sort of find that base, but it definitely looks like they're going to stick with it. But you know what? As one door closes, another one opens. What's next for Airzee?
There's so much I wanted to do, and part of my decision making was, do I want to come back and take a third year here and possibly have another shot to play T1? Do I want to spend the money to, further my education while still wanting to compete at that high level? And now I have to balance both competing on T1 with whatever third year is. Oh gosh.
I mean, Cameron, let's just back it up a little bit there, though. When you were talking about practices with the team and coming into even Modern Warfare 2, what has some differences been from trying to transition from Vanguard to Modern Warfare 2?
Just gameplay-wise, it's a completely different engine. You got to change up your playstyle just a little bit to, combat the new mechanics they added in. Like they brought back dolphin diving. They made slide canceling practically impossible. Like no one does it anymore. So winning your gunfights, especially your gun skill, is more important than ever. As in Vanguard, you could just slide cancel around a corner and camera someone, and before they even see you, they're already dead, right? So just you're changing up your playstyle was a big thing. I don't really know if that really had anything to do with like practices more say. It's the same. The game plays the same way as any other game. It's the same game. You still have to learn spawns, learn rotations, learn your role. That doesn't really change from Vanguard and MW2, but it's just the way you're able to play, and sometimes people struggle finding their play style in a new engine like MW2's. I know I had kind of a struggle with that at first because like, wow, I can't slide cancel anymore. That's like one of my main mechanics. That's why I was pretty good at Vanguard, was because I was able to do stuff like that. Bunny hopping it really doesn't exist in this game. It's hard to do. And it was chalked. Like moving from that game to this game was way different. But in terms of practices, it's all the same thing, honestly. So team chemistry doesn't really change. It's just who's on the team at that point.
Yeah, you were really going into side saying that it was just so much of a mismatch that was going around. And I was just more kind of curious about that. Like, is this some of the reasons why, like, we're seeing you guys kind of crumble a bit out there?
I think it's just where the team was at the beginning of the year to where it is now. And if we're talking about ACAT, it's like, yeah, I come on replacing Fiend, and now they have to get used to a new player on the team, a new voice on the team, I was a sub initially, and we had a little problems too where people wanted to change different roles. I was thrown on the AR, second AR for a while actually, so I was trying to get used to that as well. And then I was like, oh no, I guess I'm going back to the sub now. So there's, you play scrims to play for your roles, and then it's like, oh, the next set of scrims, hey, can you run the AR now? So now you have to change up your entire team dynamic, the way you call out, the way you play versus where your teammates play. It's just a little stuff like that changes. So it is a mishmash, and for T2 especially, it was, we didn't have a lot of like voices on the team. Like for last year, Boss Frost was our main leader. We didn't have like an IGL, but Teo really took over for that, which was really nice. And look at him now. He's on T1 frying, and he's learning under Bonk, and he's that second voice, and they're playing really well. I tried to be that for this team, but I'm definitely no IGL. If I'm IGLing, I'm dropping donuts and S&Ds. I'm going double negative in hard points controls. I thrive playing just being told what to do, honestly, and let myself flow around the map. So that was the main reason. And
you know what, from even seeing you very much as that kind of float kind of player in Vanguard, one thing I've seen a lot from Vanguard to Modern Warfare 2, and it's more directly on subs, and even more directly at like hard points as well, for what happens for the flanks and the rotations for subs. From Vanguard, it seems like you were able to make those flanks so much faster. In Modern Warfare 2, it seems a little bit slower. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, the tac sprint's a little finicky in this game. There is ways to reset your tac sprint mid-sprint. But sometimes it's kind of chalked. Like you'll melee, which is how you do your melee mid sprint, and you usually get it back. But sometimes it doesn't work like that. It'll just you'll melee and then you'll get a dead sprint again, and then your route is now 2 seconds slower. When if you were 2 seconds faster, you get to the spot where you wanted to go initially, and you get behind a guy, and maybe you pop a 2-piece, get spawns. So it's little things like that too. As far as Vanguard and Vanguard, it was way easier in my opinion, just because the tac sprint, you literally just had to slide cancel, which I did already instinctively to get behind places. And you're at your destination and you pop a 3-piece, get yourself spawns, Bob's your uncle. So just, yeah, that was really like a really screwy mechanic for me, especially trying to get used to MW2, was learning how to get the melee in to get your sprint back. And there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot on this game that I feel like a lot of people struggle with. But as a sub player, just in general, I mean, the Vaznev is buff. It's really good. Like, before they patched it, like, that thing's beaming. Like, you're an AR regardless.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier today, and my goodness, can you absolutely feel the nerf at range now? But you know what? It was completely necessary. You know, after the T1's last game, I was talking to Kier, and he's not a huge fan of MW2 because he feels like it's almost taken a step back skill gap-wise from Vanguard, whereas Vanguard, you had all this expression mobility-wise that's been stripped away in big part in this MW2 game here now. Personally, how much of an impact do you feel like there's a much smaller skill gap now with the changes to movement?
No, but I can see what Zach means by that, honestly. I think this game really does tailor to really slow players with the removal of slide canceling, the addition of, the dolphin dive, and the, kind of the removal of the easy tack sprint reset with slide canceling. It does tailor AR players. And I think, where Zach has problems too, and I think where a lot of us has problems is just sometimes we play too fast. And like I said, the turtle wins the race at the end of the day, right? So if you're going to be turtling up half the time just playing spawns or playing back, you're going to get 10 kill streaks, 15 kill streaks. You're going to double up your cruises. It's a hard game to really start repacing yourself, especially if you're a fast player. It's really tough. Like, it's tough especially in this game, to repace yourself if you are a player that's played this game for 3 years and you've all you know is to play fast, and you really adapted your playstyle to play fast and you're good at it. And then you go to this game, it's like, I'm playing against slugs. This is great. But wait, these slugs are really good because all they do is hold stuff. And I'm running into their pre-aims. No. Then you start to get mad.
No, I understand that. You know what? I talk about it on stream so much. You can just tell when the mental is just such a key component to Call of Duty. It's just being able to, if it's a close game, maintaining your focus. Or if you have a bad map, being able to stay dialed in. And you know what? I feel like that can also sort of just talk to the team dynamics you guys have had fluctuating. Because in scenarios like that, I don't know how you feel about this, Mins, but like, you really got to come together as a team. And having that repertoire of scrimming together, playing together, knowing who you're going into battle with, per se, it really makes a difference when the rubber hits a road. And I feel like that's why, in the scrims, you guys were finding success there in the preseason. But when the rubber hit the road, it just wasn't flowing as fluidly.
Yeah, it's a lack of leadership, honestly. And leadership is super important in any game, especially in COD too, because of how fast-paced it is. You need someone to help. If you're down 3 hills, you're down like 120 to 0, and you haven't touched the hill yet. It's like, okay, guys, let's slow down, let's rethink, let's hit something together. And let's talk about T1 for a second for that, because everyone on that team is very vocal, and that's what I love about that team. They have Bonk, Cure, Boss Ross, Fiend. Fiend's one of the more quieter players, but like playing with him and seeing him play in actual matches too. Like, I know that there's passion flowing out of that man's mouth. He's all over the map, and I mean, Teo's a very vocal player. He had that in ACAD last year, and you already know Bonk and Jake. He's been a staple on T1 for 2 years. He was kind of under the wing of Radix, Mega, and Pups last year. And he's done so much learning over the last year. Like, I've literally watched this guy go back over VOD for 3 hours, watch his Aspire matches, the org that he plays for. I've watched him go over those matches. I've watched him watch pro streams to learn the game. And that's the difference between the T1 team now and then the T1 team, the T2 team this year, is that lack of leadership. And like I mentioned earlier, I tried to be that. That's what I wanted to learn, is how to IGL while still maintaining my play. And it's really hard. I give a lot of IGLs so much credit that they're able to micromanage pieces around the map while still focusing on themselves and going off.
Okay, so to kind of proceed forward with this interview here, the real question is, we've talked a lot about the past. We've broken down sort of how we've ended up here. What's next for Airzee?
Yeah, I've given this a lot of thought, and I'm planning on doing the old Method Zinni treatment. He recently just retired from Call of Duty. He I'll give you the rundown. He was pretty much into streaming when he got benched from Toronto team, And then he joined Boston's team, and he always had that passion for streaming and doing content before he retired. And then he retired, and now he's back on the biggest esports organization in the world, Optic, and he's streaming and making content. I would really like to finish out this year just doing part-time content, doing stuff like this with you guys. It would be really nice. And then I hope to come back in September to do full-time content-ish and work here for a bit, covering the COD team, covering pretty much all field teams. I think that'd be really good for my resume. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. And I never thought I would honestly get to this point where I would have the experience and now know what to talk about and how to break it down and all that stuff. And here I am now, and I don't know. I think it's a really great opportunity, and I don't know. I'll see where this goes. Hopefully it works out. But as far as right now, I want to start with part-time content creation and hopefully move to full-time come the next school year.
Well, you know what? Coming off retirement just in the past week officially, you have so much time to sort of sit back, take a moment, appreciate the fact that you don't have to worry about scrimming. You don't have to worry about games anymore. You got a little more time on your hands, and, maybe you'll find that passion for COD, just playing recreationally, getting on that rank grind. Lord knows you were boosting my account earlier just
1v1 me,
alone.
bro.
So, you know what I mean? So, but we're going to wrap up this segment here. We're going to have another segment coming at you quickly. I was CJ. Thank you, Mins, for joining me and doing all the production work for this episode. I've just been a pretty face and a voice here for this segment. And thank you, Airzee. Fresh off the retirement, we're dragging you right back into the shop right away for a little bit of a podcast action. When we come back, another segment for the Fuel Report.
1v1 me, bro. GG's.